Today I wanted to kind of talk about something that I've been hearing kind of more about. The best way to kind of put it, I guess, is this kind of common misperception when it comes to emotional health and mental health. I think that people are using it in a way that kind of denotes that you have this thing and it's stuck with you for life, and um, it is uh, the environment causing it to the person, which has some truth behind it, but I don't think is the full story. And again, is not leading to particularly a positive outcome. So I tend to focus on the cycle of these things and what they mean. And as you know, mental health, emotional health, and physical health are very strong um, elements in self care. And in that way, uh, we want to give it the right value so people can understand the system that it's a part of, and navigate it appropriately and see things very clear. Um, that being said, stress is also a big part of self-care. Essentially, the proper use of self-care helps reduce or get rid of the stress. Um, that being said, when we have uh, emotional stress or mental stress or even physical stress, uh, the truth of the matter is that those things are indicators of the fact that we are not doing well in those areas. The stress factor in those specific, um, I guess the best way to say is areas of a person, doesn't mean that the environment per se is attacking those areas. It just is a kind of a warning sign saying, hey, you know what? You need to look deeper into this area of mental health, emotional health, or physical health. Um, and in looking deeper in these areas, you have to grow. And having that growth will release the pressure. Often the stress factor is because of there not being a solution to the problem and staying in the environment without a solution. However, if we just leave the environment, and not in all cases, but for the most part, if we leave that environment, it doesn't really mean that we will solve that problem. We might forget what was causing the problem in the first place. There might be no pressure to cause us to dig any deeper. In fact, most of the time when we relieve ourselves from the immediate situation, we will create a compensation to kind of get rid of that past experience, therefore making sure that the indicator of stress around mental, physical, or emotional health will pop back up, and it'll say, hey, guess what? You have not done growth in this area. Therefore, you're still going to run into problems that need you to grow to overcome them. And if you don't, stress will remain. That's essentially the best way to view and navigate those issues with a positive outcome. Now, the fact that we can grow means that we can overcome these challenges, and if we can overcome them, then stress doesn't have to be at very minimal as high as it is. And in fact, the most stress is caused by us going against our actual, let's say, personal environment of health. So if I derive my, let's say, passion, for lack of a better way to put it, from being active, and I'm now in an environment that has nothing to do with activity, eventually there will be most likely an emotional indicator of stress showing me that something is off and I'm not feeling right in this environment. After that warning sign shows itself for a certain amount of time, it will fade slightly, and the mental indicator will come on. This is a lot more persistent. It most likely will be this nagging feeling of feeling, let's say, not fulfilled or tired from a day's work and the job that we're doing. And in this way, a stronger indicator that something is off. After we pass that point, the physical indicator will kick in, and we will most likely have um, some either eating compensations or pain compensations for the job that I'm doing. That being said, the physical body, the muscles, and the organs, and all those kind of things are going to be generally the last indicators on this spectrum of trying to correct something in the environment. Because we're not reflecting on our whole day at the end of the day to see, did these decisions line up with how I want to be as a person, and did they line up with me mentally? Are these satisfying things for me? And am I doing the physical actions that are going to allow me to continue doing this thing at the minimum amount of stress to myself? These are questions that we should often ask ourselves at the end of the day, but we are far too busy and far too much under stress already to take the time to deal with those. The truth behind that is you do need time to process what happens in a day and then make corrections to that. This means that you will have to slow down. There should be days off, the weekend. In this weekend, it should not be just used for the external, let's say, release of the pressure, partying, running around, exercising, hanging out with family, barbecuing, all these kind of action style things. It should also be used for the reflective version. This meaning the looking back at the week, seeing how did we perform based on our personal ideals. Are we living up to them? Are we not? If not, how can we improve? If we're going to improve, this is going to denote a process. What is that process? Who's going to mentor us in this process so that we make sure we're really sticking to it and we are progressing? What are our success markers in this process? These things have kind of been lost to time, but very, very important when we're actually talking about the system of mental, physical, and emotional health. I really wanted to put some emphasis on those points because I don't want people feeling that you are stuck with a mental, physical, or emotional issue. Often, the way we try to solve an emotional thing is by using more emotions to help that. That is not necessarily going to be the thing that kind of pulls you out of that challenge. Also, with physical things, we will use a physical way of thinking, or a physical language, if you want to call it something, of getting out of a physical problem. But the fact that we're in the physical problem is not the physical part of it. There's a part that preceded that, and that is where you're going to get more clarity. I did make a video on the diagram of how these elements interlock with each other and how you solve for the opposing issue in that area. You can take a look at that video. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but essentially the part that is causing the issue is generally not the main cause. It is a kind of miscommunication in the three elements that causes this issue to show itself. Now, that being said, each person can have a different, let's say, affinity to things. There are people that are generally more versed in a way of logic or mental thinking. There are people that are much versed in the emotional side of things and the flowing of the feelings, and well versed at talking in that kind of language. And there's also the physical people who do things by action and learn by action, and in this way are more well versed in that way of viewing things. However, we do need all three to complete the environment of health associated with human being and a positive way of life. So that is everybody's journey separately. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.